New York City, Mumbai, Tokyo, Seoul. Each one of these metropolises has expanded far beyond traditional definitions of what it means to be a city, so much so that an entirely new term was created to accommodate these rapidly changing landscapes. Megacities, a term adopted by the United Nations back in the 1970s, refers to cities with large populations, high industrialization, complex social structures, and fragile ecological environments. These metropolises are massive, condensed, sprawling areas with over 10 million residents living within their jurisdiction. As of 2025, there are 33 megacities worldwide, consisting of more than 7.6% of the world's population, and this number is only expected to rise in coming years as movements towards urbanization progress. Less than 50 years ago, only 38% of the national population of the Republic of Korea lived in cities, but due to rapidly increasing industrialization, urbanization, and economic growth, this number skyrocketed to 88.3% at the turn of the century. Now, Seoul ranks as one of the most populous cities in the world, with 9 million residents living within the city center and 22 million spread throughout the greater Seoul metropolitan area. This area includes the surrounding 5 satellite cities of Ilsan, Bundang, Sangbon, Pyeongchon, and Jongdong, and consists of 47% of the nation's total population. Of the 33 existing megacities, 19 are currently located within the global south, primarily on the Asian continent, which includes the Republic of Korea's capital, Seoul. The Asia-Pacific region continues to warm faster than the global average and remains the most disaster-prone region, accounting for up to 75% of people affected by disasters globally. According to EMDAT data, as of November 14, 2025, natural disasters affected more than 29.3 million people in 17 countries in the Asia-Pacific region, causing 8,800 deaths and 13,600 injuries. The annual mean near-surface temperature over Asia in 2023 was the second highest on record, 0.91 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average, and 1.87 degrees Celsius above the 1961 to 1990 average. Particularly high average temperatures were recorded from western Siberia to Central Asia and from eastern China to Japan. The Korean Peninsula, located between China and Japan and surrounded by the East and Yellow Seas on 3 sides, is vulnerable to typhoons, floods, droughts, landslides, snowstorms, tsunamis, and earthquakes, with heavy rainfall and typhoons causing the greatest damage. Most disasters occur between June and September, when monsoon rains averaging 24 inches trigger flooding and landslides in the country's mountainous terrain. Typhoons from the Western Pacific also frequently impact the Korean Peninsula during July and August. In recent years, climate change has intensified these hazards, contributing to a 1.7 degrees Celsius rise in average temperatures, a 19% increase in rainfall, and stronger, more intense typhoons over the past century. As natural disasters such as floods and droughts become more frequent and severe, megacities face growing challenges to their governance, infrastructure, and public services. As major centers of economic and social activity, they depend on resilient systems to withstand disasters and minimize losses. Existing challenges, including social inequities, resource scarcity, and pollution, are further intensified by climate change and high population density. Building resilient megacities is therefore essential and involves strengthening 5 key dimensions of resilience: economic, social, environmental, infrastructural, and institutional. The United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction created the Making Cities Resilient 2030, or MCR 2030, initiative to help cities strengthen their resilience to disasters and climate-related risks. The initiative aims to improve local resilience by promoting advocacy, sharing knowledge and best practices, fostering city-to-city learning networks, providing technical expertise, and building partnerships across all levels of government. At the core of MCR 2030 is a flexible, 3-stage resilience roadmap that helps cities improve their disaster preparedness and resilience over time. Cities can join the program at any stage depending on their level of progress, gaining access to technical support, practical tools, and peer learning opportunities while committing to demonstrate measurable progress. A key principle of MCR 2030 is that disaster risk reduction cannot be managed by a single department or emergency response agency. Instead, resilience requires collaboration among local governments, community organizations, businesses, technical experts, and residents. Cities must not only reduce disaster risks, but also invest in resilient systems, infrastructure, and services that enable communities to withstand shocks, adapt to changing conditions, and recover quickly after disasters. The first stage, Stage A, Cities Know Better, focuses on building awareness and understanding of disaster risk reduction and resilience. Cities in this phase commit to developing a disaster risk reduction strategy while engaging government agencies, community stakeholders, and the public to create a shared understanding of local risks and resilience goals. The second stage, Stage B, Cities Plan Better, emphasizes planning and assessment. Cities improve their ability to identify risks, align local strategies with regional and national priorities, and strengthen disaster planning. While these cities might already have disaster management strategies in place, they work to better integrate risk reduction and preventative measures into long-term development planning. The final stage, Stage C, Cities Implement Better, centers on putting resilience plans into action. Cities at this stage have established disaster risk reduction and resilience strategies and are actively implementing them. Their focus shifts towards integrating resilience into everyday government operations, infrastructure investments, and public services, ensuring that disaster risk reduction becomes a permanent part of city planning and decision-making. Together, these three stages provide cities with a practical and adaptable framework for continuously strengthening resilience, reducing disaster risk, and creating safer, more sustainable communities for the future. Along with this initiative, 10 essential criteria were created for more resilient cities, the majority of which relate to infrastructural, social, and institutional capacities. These essentials are pursuing resilient urban development and design, safeguarding natural buffers, strengthening institutional capacity for resilience, understanding and strengthening societal capacity for resilience, increasing infrastructure resilience, and expediting recovery and building back better. These criteria are the basis with which I will examine the existing and potential infrastructure of Seoul, what improvements can be made, and a comparative analysis to the existing infrastructure within the United States. Before examining Seoul's infrastructure, we must first understand the different kinds of infrastructure that exist and the differences between them, as well as how they might be implemented or combined to enhance a city's infrastructure and improve resiliency. Gray infrastructure, also known as hardened or conventional infrastructure, refers to engineered systems built from materials such as concrete, steel, and rock. Examples include dams, levees, dikes, stormwater systems, and wastewater treatment plants. For decades, these structures have supported economic development, reduced poverty, and protected communities from hazards. However, many gray infrastructure systems are increasingly being pushed beyond their limits. They were engineered to control or even resist nature rather than adapt to it. As climate change drives more frequent and intense floods, storms, and heat waves, this rigidity has become a liability, leaving communities more vulnerable when infrastructure is overwhelmed or fails. And gray infrastructure also contributes to environmental degradation and intensifies the urban heat island effect. Large areas of concrete and asphalt absorb heat during the day and release it slowly at night, preventing cities from cooling. As a result, urban areas are warming at nearly twice the global average, with nighttime temperatures reaching up to 12 degrees Celsius higher than surrounding rural areas. Another challenge is that gray infrastructure can create a false sense of security. Structures like levees and flood walls may encourage development in high-risk areas, increasing potential losses if those defenses are exceeded. In the United States, aging infrastructure, deferred maintenance, and more extreme weather have further exposed these vulnerabilities, with trillions of dollars needed for repairs and upgrades. These limitations demonstrate why cities are increasingly shifting toward more adaptive and resilient approaches that combine traditional engineering with nature-based solutions. As flood risks continue to increase due to climate change, traditional gray infrastructure alone is no longer enough to protect communities. Cities are increasingly turning to green, blue, and hybrid infrastructure because these nature-based solutions help mitigate physical flood risks while providing a more flexible, adaptive, and integrated approach to resilience. Natural buffer zones, such as wetlands, mangroves, and floodplains, have also proven invaluable in reducing the impacts of rising sea levels and intensifying storms. Compared to gray infrastructure, green and blue infrastructure is often more cost-effective and delivers additional social, economic, and environmental benefits. These investments create green spaces that strengthen social connections and provide the social conditions needed for recovery after disasters. Research by Daniel Aldrich on Japan's 2011 earthquake and tsunami found that communities with stronger social infrastructure, including parks, community centers, schools, and other shared spaces, had lower mortality rates than those relying primarily on seawalls. Building resilient cities, therefore, requires investing in both nature-based and social infrastructure, supported by strong policies, partnerships, and community engagement. While nature-based solutions offer significant advantages, the most effective approach to flood resilience is often to combine them with traditional engineered, or gray, infrastructure. Rather than replacing gray infrastructure entirely, green and gray systems should work together to maximize benefits, improve efficiency, and reduce costs and unintended trade-offs. As the Nature Conservancy explains, gray infrastructure can respond quickly during emergencies through measures like levees and dams, while green infrastructure helps reduce hazards upstream and provides long-term environmental and social benefits that engineered systems alone cannot achieve. Examples of these nature-based solutions include green roofs, green facades, sustainable drainage systems, urban wetlands, permeable pavements, and restored floodplains, all of which help absorb, store, and slow stormwater while reducing flood impacts. To make this shift, nature-based solutions must be recognized as legitimate infrastructure investments. They should be evaluated and planned with the same level of rigor as traditional engineering projects. Decision makers should compare green, blue, and gray infrastructure options and identify opportunities for hybrid approaches that improve performance, reduce overall risk, and deliver long-term cost savings. It's also important to recognize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. In some locations, nature-based solutions alone may be sufficient. In others, hybrid projects provide the greatest benefit by strengthening infrastructure and increasing its durability. Conventional gray infrastructure may still be the best choice in certain circumstances, depending on local conditions and future climate risks. Successful examples already exist. Sponge cities use vegetation, wetlands, and natural water flows to absorb floodwaters and reduce the impacts of sea level rise. In Basel, Switzerland, green roofs have improved stormwater management while also enhancing biodiversity and reducing urban heat. Together, these examples demonstrate how integrating natural and engineered infrastructure creates more resilient, adaptable, and sustainable cities. Although nature-based solutions are often the most effective and preferred method, for most cities, especially megacities, pervasive use of gray infrastructure remains a stark reality. Due to the large population size and already existing infrastructure in place, establishing nature-based solutions are more difficult and expensive than hybrid solutions, which simply add green and blue infrastructure into the already existing infrastructure. Because of this, it seems that hybrid infrastructure may be the most viable choice moving forward for megacities such as Seoul. When comparing Seoul with cities in the United States, New York City stands out as the most appropriate point of comparison due to its population size and density, megacity status, and shared exposure to natural hazards such as flooding, typhoons or hurricanes, snowstorms, and extreme heat, as well as similar urban constraints. Although cultural, historical, and geographic differences shape each city's unique approaches to mitigation and resilience, examining their strategies side by side provides valuable opportunities for mutual learning. This comparative analysis identifies key similarities and differences that can inform more effective resilience practices and contribute to the development of stronger urban infrastructure in the face of growing climate challenges. Seoul's rise as a global megacity began after the Korean War, fueled by rapid industrialization in the 1960s and 70s. Landmark infrastructure such as the Gyeongbu Expressway, Subway Line 1, and Gangnam transformed the city into an economic powerhouse. By the 1980s, however, rapid growth brought congestion and pollution, prompting a shift in urban planning. Since the 90s, Seoul has focused on sustainable, people-centered development through local planning, digital innovation, and projects like the restoration of the Cheonggyecheon Stream, which became a global model for urban renewal and climate resilience. Today, Seoul is recognized as a global innovation hub and cultural capital, earning the designation of a UNESCO City of Design and becoming internationally known for its technology, architecture, and the global influence of Korean culture. However, Seoul's success has also created new challenges. Much of the infrastructure that fueled its rapid development is now aging and requires significant maintenance and modernization. At the same time, the city faces emerging issues such as worsening air quality, demographic changes driven by low birth rates and an aging population, evolving family structures, rising employment demands, and a shortage of affordable housing. To address these interconnected challenges, Seoul developed its resilience strategy around a long-term vision of a smart, safe city for all back in 2019. This vision was built on three key goals. First, Seoul aimed to strengthen resilience through collaboration among government agencies, the private sector, community organizations, and residents. Second, the city aimed to build stronger, more connected communities by expanding support and care services for vulnerable populations. Third, Seoul sought to promote inclusive growth so that all citizens can benefit from economic development and have access to equitable opportunities. One example of Korea's commitment to climate resilience is the Korea Green, Resilient, and Innovative Development, or K-GRID program. Launched in fiscal year 2023, the government of Korea committed nearly $35 million to support projects that reduce or avoid greenhouse gas emissions while advancing innovative climate technologies. Key investment sectors include renewable energy and energy storage, power transmission and distribution, sustainable transportation systems, water and wastewater management, waste management, utilities, and climate-smart infrastructure for the extractive industries. By investing in these sectors, K-GRID is helping accelerate the transition to low-carbon, resilient infrastructure both within Korea and in developing economies around the world. The Republic of Korea has adopted a comprehensive approach to disaster risk reduction by strengthening land use planning, improving building standards for critical infrastructure, protecting natural ecosystems, and enhancing early warning and emergency preparedness systems. The country is also integrating climate change adaptation into urban planning, supported by research on the impacts of changing rainfall, snowfall, and typhoon patterns. Community resilience is reinforced through volunteer participation rooted in the traditional Pamwasi culture of mutual aid. Internationally, Korea promotes resilience through the Global Education and Training Institute for Disaster Risk Reduction, or GETI, which advances disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation through training, knowledge sharing, and technical cooperation. During my time in Seoul, I had the opportunity to observe various systems at work within the energy and transportation sectors, allowing me to witness in real time how Seoul's policies are put into practice. Electric and hydrogen buses, waste-to-energy and clean energy programs, such as Mapo Resource Recovery Center and Kamipo Energium, and Cheonggyecheon Stream, were clear examples of already existing forms of integrated hybrid infrastructure within the city. In addition to pursuing clean energy systems, Seoul has installed permeable pavement blocks throughout the city and updated stormwater management systems to mitigate flooding risks. Future plans involve moving away from single-block-focused installations towards hybrid infrastructure, including infiltration and vegetation, such as rain gardens and bioswales. The city also plans to install roadside planting beds, which naturally capture and filter pollutants such as dust and tire particles, allowing them to infiltrate into the ground, thereby reducing runoff and effectively removing pollutants. Unlike previous city plans, Resilient Seoul was developed through a collaborative process supported by the 100 Resilient Cities initiative, which draws on lessons from cities around the world. By engaging diverse stakeholders throughout the planning process, Seoul hopes to create a resilient strategy that not only addressed modern challenges, but also prepared the city to adapt to future social, economic, and environmental challenges. While previous iterations of Seoul's urban master plans were useful, they lacked comprehensiveness and interconnectedness, leading to the majority of policymakers not utilizing them. The 2030 Seoul Plan was the first citizen-participated urban master plan that offered a developmental future vision for the urban space based on social demand and future predictions. This plan was also established in collaboration between departments, enabling higher levels of cooperation and integration among government officials. Looking ahead, Seoul's vision for the future is to become a city where sustainability, innovation, and quality of life go hand in hand. Rather than focusing solely on economic growth, the city aims to create an environment where people, nature, and technology coexist to build a more resilient and livable future. In order to accomplish this, various key issues, goals, and strategies were identified that focus on creating a people-oriented, community-oriented, lively, and safe city with strong cultural, historical, and economical ties to the global market. In terms of ecological welfare, the 2030 Seoul Plan hopes to focus on park infrastructure to preserve and restore ecology within the city and expand its role in public benefit, establish advanced management systems in preparation for the energy crisis, and secure low-carbon energy production consumption system, improve the capacity to prevent natural disasters and measure the environment, revitalize regions through resident participation-based urban regeneration, reform roads and create an environment of walkability, restore the public transportation-centered city with complex integrated systems, and increase the proportion of green transportation through reasonable management of car usage. The most recent master plan, known as the 2040 Seoul Plan, focuses even more on sustainable innovation and establishes a new spatial structure that accommodates the changing lifestyle of its citizens. Areas of housing, jobs, and recreation are beginning to increasingly overlap as citizens place increasing emphasis on the importance of recreational activities. This plan also acknowledges the outworn infrastructure causing separation and deterioration and seeks to find new ways to create multifunctional infrastructure to reconnect and create new spaces that are human-centered. Due to the realities of the climate crisis, increasing natural disasters, as well as the ongoing energy emergency, Seoul seeks carbon neutrality as one of its main goals, alongside improving planning standards and reinforcing integrated control systems such as environmental monitoring and preemptive risk management. One of the city's flagship initiatives is the Great Hangang Project, which seeks to transform the Han River into a world-class destination. The project focuses on restoring natural ecosystems, improving public access through walking and cycling connections, expanding cultural and recreational spaces, and creating vibrant waterfront destinations that benefit both residents and visitors. By combining ecological restoration with public amenities, Seoul hopes to strengthen resilience while enhancing everyday life. Another major priority is the vision of Seoul as a botanical city. The city plans to replace unnecessary gray infrastructure with parks, gardens, connected green corridors, and ecological spaces. The goal is to ensure that every resident can easily access green space, improving biodiversity, reducing urban heat, supporting climate adaptation, and promoting healthier communities. Seoul is also reimagining its urban landscape through the Design Seoul 2.0 initiative. This strategy integrates architecture, public spaces, and cultural heritage to create a city that is not only functional but also inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. Projects such as the transformation of Nojul Island into a cultural hub, architectural revitalization of traditional markets, and expansion of modern Hanok developments aim to celebrate Seoul's identity while preparing it for the future. New York City faces a growing range of climate hazards, including coastal flooding, sea level rise, heavy rainfall, and extreme heat. Hurricane Sandy highlighted the city's vulnerability, causing 44 deaths, flooding nearly 89,000 buildings, leaving 2 million residents without power, and resulting in approximately $19 billion in damages. Looking ahead, sea levels are projected to rise by as much as 6 feet by the end of the century, increasing flooding in low-lying neighborhoods and disrupting transportation. Even with a 2-foot increase, significant flooding is expected along the Brooklyn and Queens waterfronts, Jamaica Bay, and the Rockaway Peninsula. More intense rainfall, such as during Hurricane Ida, has also caused deadly flash floods and widespread transit disruptions, while extreme heat remains the city's deadliest weather-related hazard. Flooding can disrupt roads, bus routes, rail lines, tunnels, and pedestrian access, while also delaying emergency response. Above-ground rail systems and underground tunnels are particularly vulnerable, and damage to supporting infrastructure such as the electrical grid, pipelines, and communication systems can further compound transportation failures. For some of the most flood-prone communities, long-term adaptation may ultimately require relocating development to higher ground, rather than repeatedly rebuilding after disasters. In the aftermath of Sandy, the MTA launched a major resilience program to protect roughly 4,000 vulnerable subway openings from future flooding. While these upgrades have significantly improved preparedness, experts emphasize that they must be paired with redundant systems, since future storms may impact different areas than Sandy did. Additionally, the NYC Department of Transportation is investing in adaptation measures, including green infrastructure, cloudburst projects, and large-scale coastal protection. Two flagship projects are the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, which provides 2.5 miles of flood barriers and elevated parkland, and the Brooklyn Bridge Montgomery Coastal Resiliency Project, which uses deployable floodgates to protect the waterfront while preserving public access during normal conditions. Coordinated regional resilience strategy across New York, Long Island, and New Jersey, with support from the federal level, is needed in order to move forward. Another particularly transformative example is the Big U project in Lower Manhattan, a 10-mile protective system around Lower Manhattan, which combines berms, elevated parks, and green spaces to create greater coastal resilience than that offered by the standalone gray seawall that used to protect the city. Importantly, these projects don't just mitigate the physical risks of natural disasters, they also provide public spaces that support health and social inclusion instead of incohesive social dynamics. Although Seoul and New York City face different resilience challenges, both are shifting from reactive disaster response towards long-term adaptation. New York's strategy is driven by climate threats such as sea level rise, coastal flooding, and extreme heat through projects like the Big U, coastal barriers, and resilient transit infrastructure. Seoul, by contrast, addresses both climate risks and broader social challenges, including aging infrastructure, demographic change, and air quality through its vision of becoming a smart, safe city for all. Rather than focusing solely on physical protection, Seoul emphasizes collaboration, inclusive communities, and climate-smart infrastructure supported by programs like K-Grid and hybrid green-blue solutions such as permeable pavements, restored waterways, and clean energy systems. The effectiveness of these blue-green solutions in each city depends on factors such as their size, design, local climate, humidity, and governance. Ultimately, both cities demonstrate that resilience is about more than stronger infrastructure. It requires healthy ecosystems, inclusive communities, and long-term planning that integrates nature, technology, and people. With 70% of the urban world of 2050 yet to be built, we have a unique opportunity to design cities that protect both people and the environment. Megacities drive economic growth, but are increasingly vulnerable to disasters, climate change, and rapid urbanization. Aging infrastructure, environmental degradation, and growing social inequalities make resilience essential. Building resilient cities requires protecting natural systems like water, land, and air, while modernizing critical infrastructure, including transportation, energy, and water management. Long-term resilience depends on reducing environmental pressures through sustainable development and strengthening disaster preparedness, so cities can better withstand, recover from, and adapt to future challenges.